That came about. I ended up remixing one of his songs called Threats. That was again almost 10 years ago now. And he ended up hearing it and then he played that version live instead of the original, which, as you can imagine, having like your favorite rapper playing your remix instead of the original track live, um, it was just almost incomprehensible to me.
Welcome to Audius's Behind the Beats, episode 17. In each episode, we'll be talking to musicians and DJs from all walks of life about their experiences in the music industry. From up-and-coming artists to established industry veterans, we'll be exploring the diverse and fascinating stories of the people behind the music. On today's episode, we're joined by the incredible music producer, artist, and DJ, Ekali. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by Behind the Beats. Let's go. Hey, what's up, Nathan, aka the amazing producer DJ Ekali? Thank you so much for joining Behind the Beats.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me.
We absolutely love your music, and there's so many things to talk about in the show. But I guess to kind of like have a fun kickoff, we kind of do this thing called the rapid fire round of questions. So are you ready to kick off with that?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Producing or DJing?
Producing.
Skydiving or rock climbing?
Rock climbing.
Nice. Hot food or cold drinks?
Man, it really depends on like the weather, I guess, but like hot food.
Cool. Producing solo or collaborating?
Collaborating. I love collaborating.
Yeah. Piano or guitar?
Guitar, because it's the only one I know how to play.
Hey, that was fun. Thanks so much for participating in that. You're a good sport. So I'd now love to talk about music and all the amazing things you're doing. So first of all, congratulations on your new release, Angel Fire. It's absolutely fire, no pun intended. So tell us more about it and the song. How do you feel now that it's out in the universe?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much. That was a really special song for me. I made it with the collaborator Cadena, and I actually met him like 10 years ago at Camp Bisco, which is a festival in the Eastern States. And we just randomly like took a photo together. And then years later, we reconnected randomly actually on an Audius stream where he was sort of showcasing the music from his label Nightclub. And I randomly popped in and we ended up saying hi. And then we realized we had actually met each other years before. And through that, we reconnected and ended up making the track Angel Fire. And man, that song, I think that it took us like maybe 7 or 8 months of work to finish because there were so many sounds that just didn't, they, it felt like they weren't supposed to fit together, but they were also like the coolest sounds that I had heard. So I was like, okay, we got to make this work somehow. And I can't even count the amount of sleepless nights that we had working on the track and getting it sounding right. So it's crazy to finally have it out, and people seem to really like it, and it's very it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. It's amazing how some songs can, take like a day and others are like 8 months, but it's so worth it. And it must be quite cathartic as well to release it. So thank you for sharing all of that. I'm just curious, like what came first? Was it like the melody or like the production? Like, yeah, what was the process like for creating that song in particular?
The original demo was a demo that Joe Cadena had made, and it was just like a build up and then the first drop in the song that you hear, although it sounded a lot different back then. And he then went in the studio with Chloe Jobin, who's an amazing vocalist, and she's from Texas like him. And they got in the studio and she sort of like got some bedroom recorded vocals on top of it. And from there, we started fleshing out the structure a bit more. And then we had Chloe re-record the vocals. And yeah, I mean, everything you hear in the song right now, I don't think any of it was in the original demo. Like all of the sounds were replaced and moved around and changed.
Wow, I love that. And so do you produce on Ableton Live, is that right?
I,
Is that the
correct. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Ableton.
That's amazing. What was your journey for people that don't know in terms of transitioning from being a musician into a producer?
Yeah, well, I've been a musician since I was probably 12 years old. And
Yeah.
when I was 15, I started playing in bands, and I joined a band called Said the Whale when I was 19, and I toured around in a van playing shows with that band for roughly 6 years. And throughout that time, I was sort of looking for a way to write music on my own because I was just, I was a bass player writing bass lines, and it wasn't really creatively fulfilling for me. So I decided to save up and get a laptop. And then I was producing beats in the back of the touring van because I very conveniently didn't have my driver's license while everybody else did. So they drove me around, and I, yeah, and I made beats in the back.
Like Skrillex would do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, well, I love that story. Thank you for sharing. It's very inspiring. And you put out a lot of music, obviously, since that time of becoming a producer. In fact, your latest EP, I'd love to talk about now, ILLENIUM. I'd love to know more about the process of putting that together, the track title, and the inspiration behind that EP.
Well, alinea means the beginning of a new paragraph. And for me, I was going through a time where I didn't really write much music for a while, and I sort of, music took a back seat in my life to other things that were going on. And, approaching releasing music again after, and this is right after releasing my album in 2020. So there's a gap between the album and the EP, and I was feeling so much pressure, and I was feeling so much, I was feeling almost burdened to write music. And I felt like the only way to sort of move past that and to begin a new chapter was to burn it all down and start something new. And so that's why there's such a sonic difference between the album and the EP. And it was just sort of me taking my music into my own hands and reinventing what my music means.
That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing. That's what I love about creativity. It's like it's this process of discovery, growth, learning, and just constantly blossoming in new ways. And I just love the EP. I was going to talk about the song Python. Actually, I in particular love that one. Tell us more about that and the process of creating that song.
Yeah, Python was the last song that ended up being finished for the EP. I had all the other tracks finished, and my collaborator Blade Runner, he sent me this demo that I really liked, but it was at the time, you hear Python now, it's an E flat minor. Before, I think it was in G minor, or even A minor, and the whole vibe was different. But there was that one bass sound, the sort of sucky bass sound that happens when the drop occurs that I really loved. So I took his
Yeah.
demo and basically just mutilated it and like pitched it all down. And then, and we ended up finishing that track in about 48 hours from start to finish. So yeah, it all
That's
happened,
wow.
in stark contrast to Angel Fire, which took like a year. This track just happened like, like that.
Oh, that's an amazing story because we get the whole spectrum here. Like it's possible to create a song in 48 hours and it's ready to go, and then there's other songs that you just gotta grow with like a baby maturing.
Yeah,
you know, it's
exactly. And a lot of it is honestly just me being in my head about things sometimes. With Angel Fire, I was mixing and mastering the whole track and the vocals from scratch and engineering the vocals from scratch. And it was something I had very little experience doing. So I was constantly second guessing myself, constantly looking for mixed feedback from other people. And it was a tough process. But with songs like Python, which are just straight up bangers, it's like, I don't really have to second guess it. It's just like, the bass is sitting right, the drums are sitting right. Let's ship it.
yeah, for sure. It's actually reminds me of a quote. I think I might get it wrong by Leonardo da Vinci. Like art is never finished, only abandoned. How do you know when like a song is finished, like a mix or even
It's
a master?
it's never finished. It's never finished. I completely agree with that mantra. I think that artists have to develop a skill to sort of just put a hard stopper on things and say, okay, this is good enough. Especially when you're a producer, because not only are you expected to know how to produce, you're expected to know how to mix, you're expected to know how to master, and these are all skills that individually take decades to master. So there has to come a point in a producer's workflow where they're just able to say, um, we're going to call it done and get it out.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's something beautiful though as well about you're also like a DJ and performer. You get that experience being able to test out the songs live and get that feedback, and like it's so rewarding. And you're currently on tour, which is really exciting. So tell us more about the tour and what's going on with all the shows.
Yeah, so this is my first tour in a few years. It starts next Friday in Seattle, and yeah, I've been working on so many different projects over the last 6 months, but I haven't played any shows. So I've just been, cranking the music out. I've been working on my label a bunch, and we've got this big, huge compilation that we're dropping in a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited to play a lot of music off of that compilation and a lot of my own music that I've been working on over the last 6 months. And more than anything, I'm just really excited to get back in and like dance with people and have fun because it's been a long time since I've actually been able to hit the road.
For sure. Your shows are fire, I've heard. Um, anyway, you mentioned the label Awakening and the 20 track double compilation album. Super exciting. So tell us more about that. You mentioned that it's coming out very soon. What can we expect?
Yeah, so we have the first single. We're actually doing like a couple singles, waterfall style, off of the compilation, like people normally would with an album. But we're treating the compilation that way because there are so many tracks, and there are some songs we want to highlight, and from front to back, it's sort of a cohesive experience. So we've got the first single dropping this Friday. It's an Oddly Godly song, and then next Friday we have the second single dropping. And then on
Wow.
Friday, March 29th, we have the full 22 track album dropping.
It's all happening. That amazing. Congratulations.
Thank
What
you.
is the most yeah, what's the most rewarding thing about having your own, imprint?
I think that this label, it really does mean a lot to me because the artists who I'm signing are people who I've talked to for, a long time. And a lot of these artists I've had conversations with, and they've told me stories about how my music has inspired them. But at the same time, I'm a fan of their music and their music is inspiring me. And so it's sort of this situation where I kind of inspired this generation of young artists. And then now they in turn are inspiring me and giving me purpose with the label to release their music and get it out there. So it really does feel like, it almost feels like fate in a way, and I'm really, really excited, and I'm really emotionally invested in all of the music on the compilation. And yeah, to me, it's just as gratifying as putting out my own music, putting their music out.
Wow. It's definitely what you just described. I would say is like the butterfly effect, right? It's the full 360 because it's lifting them up, but it's also like rewarding for yourself as well. It's the full, full circle kind of moment. What I particularly love about the electronic industry, music industry, dance industry in general is you have artists like yourself and they reach, a level in their career and then they give back, right? And they do these sorts of things. They have their own labels, own compilations, and they lift up, the next generation of artists to showcase. And it's just really inspiring. When you look for tracks to include in the compilation, besides knowing the artists, what do you look for musically in their work?
Storytelling is number one for me. There are a million bajillion tracks coming out nowadays, and so many of these young producers are so technically skilled. And sure, the song might sound great. It might be mixed really well. It could be a banger for live, but for me, it's really the storytelling that I'm looking for when I hear a song. And sure, you might hear a banger here or there sprinkled in, but for the most part, if you listen to the compilation from front to back, it tells a cohesive story and it flows quite well. And for me, I feel like that's just in the strength of the songwriting from the artist because it's taking you somewhere. It's not just showing you something. It's actually taking you from one starting point and finishing you off somewhere else. And yeah, that's definitely the first thing I'm looking for.
Wow, that's really good advice, and it kind of gels well with being authentic to yourself and telling your story and finding a way to communicate that in a song form. I'm so excited for this compilation. Congratulations,
Thank you.
it'll be amazing. we also at Audius we love the all the Awakening mixtapes that you put out, which goes in hand with your label. So what's your process like for putting these mixes together? Because there's
Well,
some really like
they're done.
nostalgic tunes as well, I've noticed.
Yeah, yeah.
In
So
some
so
of
the
the
reason,
mixes.
thank you. The reason
Yeah.
the mixes are made in Ableton, so they're not like live mixed or anything. A lot of the transitions I'm doing in the Awakening mixes wouldn't really be possible on, for instance, like a set of CDJs or something. I'm actually like for sometimes you'll notice that the songs actually drift in key over time, and then mix out into a different key, and that's me like automating um, like pitch throughout the track. And if you play it through, you won't notice it, but if you skip through, you'll notice the song actually changes key. Um, and that's so that I can mix out of a song that is originally in E flat minor. I can slowly automate it to go up one semitone, and then all of a sudden I'm in E minor, and I can mix out into a track that's in E minor. So it really like opens up my options as far as um, like I said, storytelling in the mix, and introducing tracks that normally wouldn't work.
Yeah. No, I love it. And that's why it's so powerful having mixtapes as well out there that, you would put together in Ableton because you get to bring together all these amazing tunes and as well, like there's like all these nostalgic tunes as well, as I mentioned earlier. And you've done some incredible remixes. One of my personal favorites is the Smoke and Retribution Flume remix, as well as the What So Not Gemini one. I know that's going a bit far back, but when I'm thinking of nostalgia, like those are still like bangers, and I just absolutely love them. It's like the creme de la crop of electronic music. So tell us about how those remixes came together.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. Those are what, like 10 years old now or something. They're getting to be that old, I think. But the Flume remix and the What's the Not remix, this is back in the day when I wasn't playing any shows, and I think I had, a few thousand followers on SoundCloud or something. And I didn't have access to the stems for any sort of tracks to remix. So with both of those remixes, I literally just like took the full file and like chopped up bits of it and then did my own production over top of them. And that's the way I did things for a long time. But the both of those remixes ended up reaching the ears of the original artist. Like What's So Not ended up hearing the Gemini remix, and they were so kind to me. They took the remix and they had somebody professionally mix it with the stems, and that was like a really cool experience for me because at the time I had never had a bigger artist show me any sort of love. So shout out What's So Not.
Shout out What's to Know. Yeah, for sure. That's actually how I discovered your music was through those remixes like
That's
10
so
years ago,
cool.
was it? Yeah, so like that's how I heard about you that long ago. But I love those Aussie artists, and it's a great example for all of our viewers and listeners here today. How great it is to collaborate, to remix, and and here you are now about to release this, your own label compilation and giving back to the next generation of artists. So it's a great example of your career trajectory, and now you're at this point, where you got your own label and doing this compilation. So yeah, thanks for sharing all of this. It's really insightful for our viewers and listeners that might be, kickstarting off their careers. Um, I'm now going to pivot the conversation to talk about like labels and more the industry side of things. So like you've also released on labels such as like Owsla. You got that track with Denzel Curry. It's awesome. What was the process like with that and creating that song?
I mean, Denzel Curry's a beast. He's a
Yeah, for
complete
sure.
beast in the studio. That came about. I ended up remixing one of his songs called Threats. That was again almost 10 years ago now, and he ended up hearing it, and then he played that version live instead of the original. Which, as you can imagine, having like your favorite rapper playing your remix instead of the original track live, um, it was just almost incomprehensible to me. It was so cool, and from there I ended up messaging him like fanboying, like I can't believe you played my remix, and then he's like, let's get in the studio. So we ended up linking up in LA, and there was a bit of a misunderstanding. I think that his team believed I was there to like write some beats for his album. And Denzel wasn't even there the first day, and I ended up coming back the next day, and he showed up, and I played him a beat, and he wrote that whole track Babylon in like 20 minutes, front to back, fully recorded, everything done in 20 minutes. And we had some time left in the studio, so he ended up freestyle rapping and just roasted my outfit for like half an hour. It was the best thing ever. He just like straight up was tearing me apart, freestyle rapping, like making fun of my clothes and stuff. But it was all in good humor, right? But it was so funny.
That's hilarious. We love these sorts of stories because you just never know like how songs kind of like came into the universe and all the shenanigans in the studio. I love it. So I'm now going to like talk about Audius. How did you discover Audius, the platform, and what do you love about it?
I love that when you, okay, well, sorry, I should answer the first question first. How did I hear about Audius? I honestly don't remember. I think maybe I just was looking for an alternative to SoundCloud back when SoundCloud was, in my opinion, like having some issues, and things weren't really popping there. And this was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. And the reason I love Audius is just the streaming quality is so much better than anything else to me. Um, yeah, it's really difficult for me to like make a playlist of music and enjoy listening to it as an audio file when there's, noticeable downsampling happening in the music, and there's, artifacts, and the bass is being lost, everything's being smushed. And Audius does a really good job of maintaining that quality. Yeah, and also just the sense of community. I come from the days of SoundCloud when Mr. Carmack was uploading like a song a day and getting a million plays every day on the track, and to me that was the golden era of online music, and I feel like Audius is trying to bring that back to some success.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nathan. Yeah, that's definitely like our mission at Audius, and it's great as well when you put up your, awakening mixtapes on the platform because you got that, the whole high quality listening
Oh man, I,
experience.
I gotta I gotta upload more stuff to Audius. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
guilty of that. I need to upload way more stuff.
We got listeners ready to listen. So I'm now going to wrap up the show kind of with our final segment. What we do is we have like what we call like the golden nuggets, so wisdom and advice for the next gen of artists. So what advice would you give to artists that are looking to kickstart or develop their career, whether it's music production, the business side of things, or even performing live?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to sort of give blanket advice because everybody does music for a different reason. But if your reason for music is because you love it, then the best advice that I can give is to never lose sight of that. And throughout your journey, it's going to be difficult because it's one of the hardest industries in the world to, well, one, succeed in, and two, endure. It's really a brutal industry, and it's really tough on your mental. And there's so many like outside factors that can influence um, your music, or the way that you feel about your music, or your intention for doing what you do. And from personal experience, I can say it's really easy to lose sight of the reason that you started. And so for that reason, I think it's important to keep that at the front of your mind, and never lose sight of it. And that's what I'm getting back to now. There was this period of 5 or 6 years in my career where I feel like I was sort of just lost, and getting back to why I started, and doing things for fun, and doing things because I love doing it. That at the end of the day, that's what's going to, one, keep you happy, and two, it's going to translate in your music, and that's what's going to end up getting you the success that you want, is having that fun, and
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries. And yeah.
That advice was definitely golden advice. So thank you so much, Nathan. I
My
would say,
pleasure.
yeah, it's like what you're saying is if you really love it, you'll find the joy in the love for the music in some way. You'll know intrinsically, and yeah, even if it as over a period of time, you always come back to that, that core, like, why do I love this? So
Yeah, and
yeah,
the music will benefit from it 100%.
yeah, for sure. Find the joy. And speaking about you, where would you like to see yourself in 5 years if you could paint like an amazing roadmap?
I'm
You get
what
the opportunity, yes.
I would love to see more collaborative events between Awakening Records and event promoters, streaming platforms. I want to take this label somewhere that really gives
Mhm.
these artists the platform that they deserve. So I just want to keep growing it, and yeah.
Wow. Well, we got the exclusive alpha here on Audios First. So thank you so much, Nathan, AKA the amazing Ekali, for joining us today on Behind the Beats.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap for Audius's Behind the Beats, episode 17. We'll be dropping the social handles and links for Ekali in the comments and description. Until next time, keep vibing, keep thriving, and keep creating. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one. Behind the Beats is a production of Audius Music. This episode was hosted by me, Sam McFly, with editing by Julian Blythe and production assistance from Sierra Graves. Our executive producers are Julian Baker and Michael Cullen. Theme music by Caption.